glizzy hands, coffee cow, spoontrioc, Dr. Carbonation, glarketing. To the average person, these words seem like absolute nonsensical gibberish. But in actuality, this is simply the vernacular of, without exaggeration, the most talented, passionate, insane, and quite simply, the best creator community in internet history. Brandon G.H. Ewing, better known as Atrioc, is by all means a former marketing manager at Nvidia and a streamer who originally started out in being terrible at video games and doing general variety streams, with his signature piece of content being Marketing Monday, which is originally just a day where Atrioc talked about ads and marketing that eventually evolved into whole informative presentations going over American and international economic and geopolitical news. And despite Atrioc being just that and nothing more, he has somehow managed to cultivate a community that has produced several EPs and albums totaling to over 200 songs, multiple animated music videos from those songs, a live concert performing those aforementioned songs, 2 awards shows that cost thousands of dollars, a labor union comprised of Atrioc's Twitch chatters, and 2 memes that the community has repeated for about 3 years ad nauseum, and will keep repeating until it becomes permanently engraved in Atrioc's legacy. And by the way, these songs aren't just scuffed, ironically bad shitposts, these are genuinely good, professional sounding songs.
Lewis of the streaming fuckers, you might need a buffer. My IQ is your FIDE number. RDC West, the Union Protest, Logic Pro X. I guess you could say it's a 3-way, brother.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no other content creator community, even those that are dozens of times bigger than Atrioc, that has done even a fraction of the amount of stuff that Atrioc's community has done for him. Of course, there are definitely individuals and communities that have a lot of passion and talent in their own right that I don't want to diminish. But in terms of organized and coordinated effort from dozens of community members towards one big project, this doesn't exist anywhere else on the internet besides in Atrioc's community, with the only things I could find that comes even remotely close being the 2B2T Obsidian art of Usada Pekara and this community animated Neurosama parody MV of Machine Love, which admittedly is pretty awesome as a casual Neuro enjoyer and Swarm appreciator. I remember seeing a funny comment somewhere that said old Ludwig had to spend millions of dollars running content creator events. Atrioc got a community that essentially did it for free. Keep in mind, Atrioc himself has had no involvement in any of these projects besides some funding for the awards show and the concert, and he's not even a musically inclined person in the slightest. So you're probably thinking to yourself, with a community that insane for a relatively niche content creator, why? How? How did a marketing and news streamer manage to cultivate such an insane and dedicated community? What about this guy in his mid-30s with one foot in the grave who sits in a chair in the most unergonomic way possible is so special to inspire the crazy things his community has done? That is a question that not even Atrioc himself knows the answer to, but frankly, I'm pretty sure anyone in his position would be at a loss for words.
Can I ask a serious question? How did I get all this musical talent in my... I don't have any musical talent. I've never done any musical... How did this happen? I'd like to pretend like I planned it. I didn't. I didn't plan it. I didn't do anything. What the fuck led to this? What? This is not... I don't see this anywhere else.
But there has to be some sort of answer, right? As soon as I discovered Atrioc, I knew that a content creator with this much lore and inside memes and insane community activity would be something I would have to make a video about, especially since all of this has been fairly obscured outside of Atrioc's community and even some of Atrioc's newer viewers, which included me, unfortunately. When I was coming up with my own reasons as to how this anomaly developed, I realized that in order to even properly understand and document the shenanigans in this community, much less hypothesize on its existence, I would need to talk to the people that have orchestrated all this insanity. but that would require me to talk to people, and let's just say there's a reason why I have a Bocchi the Rock profile picture on my Discord and an entire folder of Bocchi the Rock images. But regardless, I'll just have to get over myself and reach out to the most prominent members of the community to figure out just what the hell is going on. Before we start, I just want to apologize in advance for my amateurish conduct. This is one of my first times doing an interview by myself before, and this is also one of the first times I'm meeting a celebrity.
I mean, it's fine. People are often nervous when meeting me. I'm really used to it. Don't even worry. Don't even trip.
Yes, we're very famous.
Hi, I'm JPEX. I directed the Atrioc live show at TwitchCon, and I am one of the producers, mixers, and mastering engineers for all of Atrioc's music that we do for him.
My name is Drop Spindle. I was the founder of the Atrioc Chat Labor Union, and I have been a vocalist and performer on songs like, forgot the names of all of the songs I've ever been on. Jesus Christ.
My first impression of Atrioc, he was like really old.
My first impression of Atrioc was somebody who was, extremely knowledgeable and had a pretty solid background in non-streaming things.
He was working at a Fortune 500 company, and I think he brought more to the table than just games and streaming, because a lot of streamers do good gaming content, but very few people were researching and giving interesting presentations.
The thing that drew me in so much was that he interacted with his community through Reddit and had so many inside jokes. And the way that he just like latched onto every joke about like glizzy hands, or like he works at Nvidia.
I felt from a lot of Atrioc chatters where they're not willing to just stop it. They're going to take it a little bit farther and have a creative idea and follow that. And then the community's going to be like, yeah, we're all on board with this. This is our guy, this is our person with like Evan Gao and S3K. And we're not going to let it go until we've had our fun and take something stupid like glizzy hands as far as physically possible.
And he catered towards an audience that felt more mature. It was brain rot still, but it felt like a different sort of brain rot. The audience felt like they were spamming silly jokes and making very ironic posts and everything, but there was a heart in the community.
I came in during the union bit, and before that, there was already a ton of lore. I really didn't understand where the coffee cow thing came from, the glizzy things came from, S3K. I literally had to pull Ask aside. It's like, hey, can you explain this, this, and this?
Now, before I go any further, I know that anyone watching that isn't an Atrioc viewer still doesn't know what glizzy hands or coffee cow are, or how they became the bedrock of the Atrioc community. And despite how nonsensical it will seem, everything I will say is absolutely crucial in understanding Atrioc and how his community snowballed into the anomaly that it is now. The phrase glizzy hands is derived from the fact that Atrioc's fingers are larger than average, so much so that his community has likened them to hot dogs, thus glizzy hands. The genesis of glizzy hands is largely unknown due to the fact that people were calling Atrioc glizzy hands in his oldest videos, so as far as I'm concerned, this phrase could date back to the early hominids, which is reasonable considering Atrioc's age. Despite Atrioc vehemently denying the large size of his fingers,
my fingers are not grilled franks!
His community has continued to run this joke to this day, with the meme evolving to the point where the community has also denominated Atrioc as a glizzy gobbler that constantly slurps down hot dogs, and proceeded at certain times to also replace the onset of every word with the onset of glizzy, with words like Glarketer, Edward Glizzerhands, Glamorai.
Don't call me Joey Chestnut because I'm slurping glizzies. Does anyone else understand that even if in some world that I had glizzy hands, which is where it comes from, that doesn't mean I eat more than the average person on hot dogs. That just means my fingers will be big. Even if I did have glizzy hands, it doesn't mean that I have a glizzy car and a glizzy mobile and that I eat a bunch of hot dogs. That's not how that works. It doesn't mean that my job would be called Glarketer. It would just be Marketer, and I have slightly bigger fingers.
With one of the most prominent ones being Glancer, where chat proclaimed that Atrioc had glizzy hands cancer after this moment where Atrioc was watching Dr. House.
You didn't notice his fingers? I noticed they were fat.
No, it's not glizzy hands equals cancer.
As for the coffee cow part, this originates from one Reddit post on Atrioc's subreddit declaring that Atrioc, in addition to having glizzy hands, was also such an avid drinker of coffee that he was a cow for it, hence coffee cow. Despite there not being as much empirical evidence of Atrioc being a coffee drinker compared to the vast records of him having glizzy hands, the community decided to run with this bit regardless, and it has been another staple of the Atrioc community ever since, with there being multiple fan arts and songs of Atrioc being a coffee cow to accompany the multiple fan arts and songs of Atrioc having glizzy hands. There's also Spoontrioc, which is just Atrioc's face photoshopped onto a spoon that consistently gets to the top of his subreddit every week it's posted without fail. There's also a few holidays that the Atrioc community comes together to celebrate, with the most notable ones being Paper Mario Day on the 22nd of May, where Atrioc plays Paper Mario because of how much he and his chat love the game.
Make me believe the impossible isn't for.
As well as Bionicle Day on the 10th of August, which is a day where Atrioc does nothing but watch Bionicle lore. And last, but arguably most, there's Chili's Day on the 29th of June, where Atrioc does an IRL stream at Chili's while talking to chat because of how much he loves Chili's.
Can we get a fit check? Wakanda forever.
And of course, there's the aforementioned Atrioc signature classic Marketing Monday, which as of now is a segment where Atrioc shares a presentation about recent economic news, or on certain days, shares his own thoughts and theses about the current or future state of the world. However, there have been multiple instances where Marketing Monday has been delayed to Tuesday and as far as Thursday, mainly because of either the amount of research required for the presentation or Atrioc being lazy and irresponsible, which has led to the community making memes of Targeting Tuesday or Marketing Wednesday, as well as a plethora of songs where the singers are despairing over the fact that their lives are ruined because they weren't able to watch Marketing Monday on a Monday.
I'm sorry. Is this blaming me for your misery? I don't think that if I skip a Marketing Monday, you should be miserable.
What I covered is merely the tip of the iceberg of the full Atrioc lore, and there are unironically at least a few dozen more terms and concepts that would quadruple the runtime of this video. But that knowledge is reserved for the 200 and 300 level Atriology courses. You'd think with the same 5 or 6 jokes being repeated ad nauseum for years, any streamer would eventually get fed up and get pissed off at their community, and Atrioc is no different.
Why? Why be Edward Glizzyhands? Why?
At least at first glance. But when you actually look at how Atrioc reacts to all of this stupid brain rot, how he responds to the community is another big reason why his community continued to evolve.
I think part of what makes Atrioc so special is a mix of all these little components working together. I think the way he reacts to fan-made content, it's like a good mix of making fun of the things that are stupid and silly.
I can't wait to play
That's disgusting!
And also praising the things that should be praised.
This is really talented. The whole thing is a complete package.
When it's a song about glizzy hands or coffee cow or some like overdone meme, he's exasperated by it, but he's like, oh, fucking God, again. You know, that's funny. It's funny to like poke his buttons and say like, hey, I know this is overdone, but what if we just do it again?
There's always the shitpost, like the glizzy hands, the coffee cow, stuff like that that is just truly idiotic. But then there would be high effort people who went in after and took this thing that's so stupid and should never see the light of day and make something insane out of it, like the fucking Edward Glizzy Hands portrait of Atrioc as Edward Scissorhands but with hot dogs for fingers instead. It's like, why? Like, what compelled you to make this? But the truth is, his reaction to it did. Him being fucking supportive in his own way, being like, what is this bullshit?
Get a job! You have skills! You have 3D rendering skills! Get a job!
I think the specifics of like Atrioc language matter so much less than the dynamic of kind of the back and forth between Atrioc and the community, where he justifiably is correct that like these jokes are stupid, but as a group we decide to say no, they're not, you have to deal with this.
They kind of bring back a childish sense of humor. I think we take life way too seriously, and these dumb jokes make us want to stay.
We don't get tired of the bits. He is alone in his thinking about the bit being tired, and even he won't admit it on stream ever, but he still likes it. He still loves it.
I think like it's very easy to get desensitized to the idea of these are strangers that are making things for me. But Atrioc understands the weight of what it means when 100 people get together and make something for you. One of his greatest strengths is his ability to express that on stream. You just get a more real reaction out of Atrioc.
Are you telling me that right when I'm feeling a little emotional from a fucking nice community thing, I run away to do cocaine? Is that what you're... No!
No matter what we would do, even if we were pushing it pretty far, we were making some good fucking clips and some good content and some good YouTube videos for them. And because they saw the good reception to that, other people would start making their own stuff.
The way that you react to gifts is sometimes the gift that keeps on giving itself. You want to chase that again. You want to say, oh, how can you outdo ourselves? Or how can we piss him off more?
It really was just his acceptance of everything and his encouragement of it that really, I think, cultivated what the community's become.
But even with all of that in mind, what they just said was only one part of this puzzle and how Atrioc's community managed to develop to this point. In order to find the rest of the pieces, we need to look at Bloons Tower Defense 6. Yes, I'm not joking, hear me out. On some day in 2022 that I'll look up later, Atrioc decided on stream to start playing BTD 6 for the first time because some 5-month sub messaged him asking to play it.
I'm literally gonna play this one time. I just want to get one real game going. This is not a Bloons stream.
Fast forward a couple months later, and Atrioc started an event called the Popathon, where he declared that he would not stop streaming until he beat all of the hardest maps on the hardest difficulty in BTD 6, which is chimps, which is something that Atrioc's chat was consistently ignorant of throughout the Popathon.
The reason you don't upgrade towers? Because I have $250! That's why I don't upgrade towers! It's round 9! I don't have any money! Oh, what? Never talk to my chat again, you dumb backstating bitch! Really, this stream tried to work this time? It already has worked, you brainless buffoon!
I won't break down the entire thing because the edited video of the Popathon is genuinely at least in the top 50 best YouTube videos of all time and arguably deserves to be archived in the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. But here's just a few snippets for why I'm glazing this video so hard.
In one of my previous streams, there was a guy who kept spamming to get the balloon chipper. 1,000 times. He's like, no, you're fucking dumb. Get the balloon chipper. So finally, I look it up. The balloon chipper's not even in this game. It's BTD 5. It's a different game that he played 14 years ago in fucking middle school.
I will pop balloons and I do not care.
It's crazy to have something you yelled last night, 8 hours ago, be sampled into a pretty good parody. This is Inception! Bro, it's me looking at my VOD to figure out what to do on 57, where I'm looking at my VOD to figure out what I did last time on 57, yesterday. 83 Bloons songs. It's been 24 hours.
That number that Atrioc proclaimed was actually recorded towards the start of the Popathon, and the actual number as of recording this is 204 Bloons songs. Granted, not all of them are studio level quality.
Quincy, my bro. Oh my god.
But some of them were good, some of them were funny, and a few of them were absolutely fucking goated, with the people that made those few eventually going on to establish the bedrock of the organized music community. However, while this was definitely a significant period of time of anomalous levels of engagement in Atrioc's community, this event isn't even close to the first, nor the craziest in the Atrioc community timeline.
Atrioc's community can broadly be split into a couple areas. There have been landmark events where the entire tone of the community sort of shifted. In the early days, Atrioc did a thing called Reddit Recap, where he'd go on his subreddit and he'd look through users submitted content and memes.
His community really came from the Reddit. That is the main sort of conduit into how all of this crazy lore got started.
During this era, you start to see some of the earliest notable names in the community start to pop up. People like S3K, so Evan Gao, Psychic, Hudat.
The history of S3K started with Hudat when he made his Reddit video to get unbanned.
It was the first Get Smarter Saturday, and he was looking for smart shit to learn something, and I sent him these nuts.
If it isn't a real video, I will ban you. Okay?
These nuts.
And he banned me for it after but I didn't want to be banned because I really liked being in the community. I liked chatting. So I was like, I'm gonna go to Reddit and I'm gonna make a video and get myself unbanned. I pulled out all the stops. I showed him that I was a lurker who was always there for his biggest moments. I called him racist.
I'm one of the only black people who watches your stream.
We don't need, okay, we don't go into the reasons, all right? We don't need to go into the reasons, all right?
It was surprising how receptive he was to it. Like, some rando was now putting himself on his Reddit, begging to be unbanned, and he was laughing. I remember coming out of that first Reddit video that I made, being like, wow, he actually really enjoyed that, and the chat enjoyed that, and it felt good for me. I'm gonna keep doing it. I started off just like trying to make videos that I thought would be a funny bit for him to watch on the Reddit, like Darman parody videos.
And then what followed after that was Psychic, another random viewer, 14 years old, sounded like a 9-year-old.
My name is Psychic, or SYK1K underscore in chat, as shown on screen.
Don't spell it like that. What a stupid tag.
He'd posted something on the Reddit basically begging Atrioc to play Fall Guys with him. Atrioc just happened to see it and thought that he was like a pro Fall Guys player or something. So he pulled him into the game, and bro had literally never played before.
I haven't played this game. I played like 5 games when the game came out.
The only reason I agreed to do this is because I thought you had 420 crowns.
And the kid he's fucking funny, because you can tell that he's been watching the streams and he knows exactly like what Atrioc will laugh at and the different little inside jokes of the community and shit.
So how much TikToks do you consume daily?
Well, what would you consider a day?
That's 24 hours. 24 hours what I consider a day.
As he was about to get banned, he was in the VC with Atrioc. One of the very last things he said,
Am I gonna have to hire Houdat as a mercenary or something to get me unbanned? It seemed to work pretty well for him.
And I kicked him.
and I instantly went to Discord. I was like, yo, if you actually want to do that, let me know and I'll get to work on it. And he was like, hell yeah, let's do it. This is when I became the Atrioc chat lawyer. I had like sunglasses. I walked into the frame and like ripped him off all cool.
Ladies and gentlemen of the chat room, me and my client are prepared to present our case to you. Now.
I fucking love Houdat.
And then I put together a defense for why Psychic should be unbanned. I was talking about how he was a little kid and it was child abuse. I just called him racist again since I was there. It worked. Got him unbanned as well. Got him VIP'd as well.
This is truly the OJ trial. He was guilty, but through the glove don't fit, you must have quit legal trickery, he got off.
And then next there was me, another random guy in the community, just made a random video about how Atrioc should play Minesweeper with him.
Oh, look at you go. Oh, this is easy. You have to win right now, though.
I don't know if I have to.
You have to.
Every time I hear Psychic talk, it's like fucking flashing back 20 years and seeing myself. It's like I got in a fucking time machine.
I was especially drawn to Atrioc because he worked at NVIDIA and I knew he lived in San Jose, which is where I live. And so it was like kind of a perfect match.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Now, I've made this video.
Okay, now I'm a little bit worried though, because now you know too much about me. That's where I go to work every day.
When I was recording those backflips in front of NVIDIA, I went by myself, set up a tripod on the side of the road, and did costume changes in a bush, and then walked back out, like go to my phone, click on the thing, do a backflip.
I literally got to give this like the Platinum Content of the Year award though. That's insane. I'll play fucking 10 games of Minesweeper, just don't show up my fucking work in a gorilla suit.
After my initial video with Atrioc, the next step was to go around San Jose and promote Atrioc and try to embarrass him as much as possible with a poster of him.
Shut the fuck up, Evan! Evan, please stop screaming! I drive down that street! I drive down that street!
I went to like a bunch of locations in San Jose. I would go around waving this poster of Atrioc's face and screaming for random passersby to follow him on Twitch. I went to In-N-Out, talking to the person at the register, like, hey, have you heard of Bergsy?
Oh, you're, this is like, no!
Yeah, I even went to San Francisco. I remember I did like a backflip in San Francisco.
Hey, San Francisco!
No.
Follow Atrioc!
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up, Evan! Shut up! Stop!
And then also, the kicker of that video was, I don't think anyone else in the community had done this before.
Here's a clip from someone I think you know and love dearly. Let's watch it, shall we?
Hey, Brandon, it's Ari.
No. Babe! Babe! You not record a video for Evan Gao. He shaved Big A in the side of his head.
I like to take credit in shaping his community the way it is, because I think this is the first time that the community has really like gotten his personal life as involved as I have.
Evan Gao, you got an open invitation to my house.
You really do. Sounds like a joke, but they'll welcome you, Evan Gao. Which is insane. It's insane.
So the other
All he
guy-
did was troll me at my workplace.
He's hilarious, so.
The reason I made my second video was actually to convince Atrioc to play Sea of Thieves with S3K.
Eventually, we kind of all came together. Wouldn't it be fun if if we got him to play this video game with us? And then we just kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him.
Also, I heard you were playing Sea of Thieves with Evan, Huda, and Psychic. That sounds really awesome. Like, I would actually watch that.
Didn't hear that, and you
So
wouldn't
go
watch
for
that
it.
stream.
This combination of these really cool community members arguably being better content than Atrioc could have ever made by himself, we naturally like got together to make the group S3K. And then Nag joined later.
We would not let up. We would just be constantly berating him, pushing his buttons, calling him hot dog fingers. You know, all the things that the Reddit does, but to his face as close as we could. And this was also kind of in that era where people started to make a lot of music.
It all started with the Monkey Ball Sea Shanty, where people were doing parodies of this running trend at the time where everyone was making sea shanties, and so they replaced the lyrics with stupid monkey ball memes. And he was losing his mind playing the game for hours on end.
This whole situation is ridiculous. How did I end up here? I'm an employed adult.
And ever since then, it started this trend of every time he grinded a game, was it Hitman, whether it was Elden Ring, Bloons, Railbound, the community would just start making music.
But I think that the biggest impact I had on Atrioc's music community was when I made a song called The Story of a Samurai. It was when he started his Elden Ring playthrough. There was like 6,000, 7,000 people in stream watching him struggle against a boss over and over. And then he listened to it for hours, for like 4 hours he listened to my song, something like that.
My first stepping my toe in the water of the Atrioc community was creating a song called Ballad of a Backseater for the Popathon. I had to work that Saturday of the Popathon, sitting at this booth just thinking about all of the things I was seeing in chat, and there's a really consistent thread here of Atrioc getting really mad at people backseating and trying to tell him to like use banana farms. And so yeah, just kind of tried to become that person and write a silly parody to Hallelujah. And I'm like, what's my differentiating factor? How do I get seen in this sea of people also posting parodies? I'm Atrioc's only lesbian viewer.
I learned it on a wiki how, so you can stop trying to figure it out. Silly Brandon doesn't know about banana farms. Stupid streamer.
So it was just really wild to see him have such a huge reaction. People remembered the Ballad of a Backseater Girl more than I ever imagined. Because I was like, I was also doing a dumb thing. Like, what?
My first thing that I did for the Atrioc community was a song called Here to Pop. I'd been kind of going through a depressive slump for the last 6 months and I hadn't really made any music. And I thought, well, it'd be kind of fun if I did something really quickly and just put it out there.
Big dreams, I'm talking big dreams. Paper money next year.
This is so fire. God damn, this is fire. I'm putting this on the workout playlist.
In the 7 years that I made music before that, maybe 1,000 people have heard it collectively. And so for one song to have been that big, really spiked the adrenaline. I was gonna say, it is kind of messed up. This person pretending to be a lesbian chatter was spamming her music at the same time. And then mine just didn't get heard for 4 hours.
There were conspiracy theorists that said that I was using a voice changer. So you're right, Ask. I am a fraud, you know? I'm just not even a girl, you know?
That's the S3K game. That's the Who Dat gambit. Playing the minority card to guilt Atrioc.
And then there was like kind of sprinkled in between tons of meme songs, like me and a Spectacor's Coffee Cow songs. People were drawing these remarkable paintings of the coffee cow for no reason. I was like, that's cool. And I remember wanting to do that with music. And so with like as much seriousness as I could approach the situation, I like made as good of a song as I could. It is kind of ridiculous actually how well that song's done.
He said, make me a coffee cow. I don't care what you have to do. Give me 4 stomachs so I can handle all this brew.
I remember being approached at one point and being like, I have no clue who Atrioc is. I don't know what a coffee cow is, but this song bangs.
And a person by the name of Austinary decided it would be cool if they collected all the people and made one song. And then eventually we're like, there's 25 of us here. It's crazy to put that many people in a song. Why don't we just do like a 4-song EP? And that became One Last Hit, which came out that October. One Last Hit took 3 months. We were like iterating on songs, we were like actually producing, we were like writing and rewriting, and we hired professional voice actors like from Hitman and Elden Ring and the Quincy voice actor. Just completely different to anything the community has ever done.
Your current target is the coffee cow, but you'll need help. I've sent you the list of recruits.
No, please don't get the voice of Diana to call me Coffee Cow. I want to meet her.
And you must be Atrioc.
Oh no!
Atrioc?
No shot!
Good luck, Agent Ewing.
You got the Quincy voice actor?
One Last Hit was the first time that someone went in with the intention of, let's make an album together. And the quality of the songs really mattered beyond just the like shock value of having 800 songs.
That community aspect of working together and collaborating was really, really exciting. I loved that energy and got kind of addicted to like the creative process, collaborating with other people.
And I think those were like the early stages of Atrioc's music, the old head era, transitioning into like the new head era, which was like the ACLU.
I was watching stream one day and noticed that there was this gap where he would walk away to get a snack or a drink or do coke. So I was like, okay, I'll make an ad break song about how it's this weird dynamic of giving a streamer money so that you don't have to watch ads and getting a reward for not watching an ad. And that was something that he played pretty much every stream when he would take a break. And somebody mentioned like, oh, it'd be kind of crazy to replace that and like trick him into playing a message.
So at the time, Atrioc was covering the unions, the strikes. And so he was kind of explaining why unions are great because, like, you know, people's voices can be heard. And so Drop Spindle had this idea to be like, it would be really cool if chat unionized against a streamer.
Hey chat, this is Drop Spindle. I wanted to interrupt this ad break to talk to you all about something important.
We started noticing a lot of behaviors that seemed to indicate that Atrioc wasn't interested in hanging out with us, his collection of thousands of close personal best friends. He'd go on double dates all the time and cancel stream unexpectedly, and we had expected to do something with our Friday night, and he just took that out from under us with no notice to, you know, hang out with his wife or do work, and it just wasn't acceptable.
I propose that we vote to form the Atrioc Chat Labor Union, and if necessary, go on strike to make our voices heard. When one chatter moves alone, they look fucking dumb. But when the Atrioc Chat Labor Union all move together, we will
Still
get
dumb.
shit done.
Still dumb!
They put him in a really hard place to like not listen to this, because then he would be anti-union when he's pro-union, but then he has to deal with the union now, which happens to be his stream.
We got somebody to make a logo, because why not? We've got 20 people here that all have different skills. Like, there's a web dev there. I'll make a website. Oh, let's make a Discord. Sure, we'll make a Discord server. Have people join it. Who cares?
And then like 7,000 people joined that Discord server, and then there's just chaos ensued.
Even though this labor union is absolutely a terrible idea, I'm down to do a labor negotiation video as part of the promotion for the Big A Awards.
He kind of came back and played into it, and we're like, okay, well, shit, we're not going to let him win and have the last word in this interaction. Like, we're going to take this farther than he thinks we can. And I have a background in student government from when I was in college. I was fascinated by the idea of doing this really elaborate election process, and we're debating, having way too serious conversations and voice calls for hours about, like, how do we break out the regions of the community? Because we don't want to have people feel underrepresented, and it needs to be an equally representative union structure. So we're going to do regions. It was a whirlwind couple days where I was not doing any of my actual job and just like being like, okay, this is who I am now. I am the interim president of this union, because I didn't want to assign myself the actual president because that's not democratic. I wanted to facilitate a healthy community, which is crazy when I'm allowing a bunch of Discord users to join a union and run for elections. We have these elections that we have to do in 2 days. The winners come out. I've never talked to half of them. And then we have a meeting the morning of the negotiation stream, coming up with our demands for the stream, and just this crazy 48, 72 hours of like getting really in the weeds in this stupid joke.
The chat cannot create and hold me to a schedule. Nobody has ever done that in the history of Twitch.
My first interaction with Atrioc was actually while I was in my boxers on the floor of my living room, and then I see Atrioc go live on my phone, and I had never like really tuned into a Twitch chat before. I hit him with an emote, Atrioc7. Atrioc then said,
JPEX music. JPEX, what's your music? Link me right now.
And here I am. It's like, oh shit. And so I just leapt up from the carpet. I was running to my room in my boxers, and I was trying to like type it in, and then I still have the phone in my hand, and he says, too late.
I literally found you. Your marketing worked. Let's see. Okay. JPEX, you want to make me an outro song? I'll pay for it. Yes, will do. That's how deals are done.
He still hasn't paid me, by the way. I gave Quack the invoice like years ago because my music had been kind of advertised in front of his community. It caught the attention of some of the prominent music people.
When we had the Union bit and the Union stream all set up, we kind of were left this community of 4,000 people.
People started kind of talking about, let's make a protest album for the Union. Why not? Like we did it with One Last Hit, let's do it again.
And that album became Down with the Atriarchy. It was a protest album against Atrioc and his like tyrannical rule of never streaming on time and playing with our emotions by skipping streams.
I'm sorry, what is this album art? I didn't actually... The Saddam statue getting torn down but with my face on it? I've delayed the fucking Ponzi scheme iceberg. It does not make me Saddam Hussein.
The Atriarchy was 32 songs and there was a B-side. It was just such a huge scope increase in what we'd done compared to One Last Hit.
Could I have imagined when I did my first ad review 2 years ago that later I'd be listening to an album where someone had the lyric,
I was fucking with the shawty, yeah, I blew her back out. It was time for Marketing Monday, so I threw her ass out.
I did not expect that as a marketing manager in a video when I started talking about marketing on Mondays, that would exist in my life.
Ideas for that album were organized in the ACLU forums on Discord. Basically, it ends up being a Craigslist of like, hey, I need a producer for this, I need a lyricist for this, I need a writer for this, I need a singer for this.
It was shocking the morning when we were finishing it, going through everything, and I was like, wait, what?
El gringo comprende el mundo, a sensei, assemble the symbol asunder. Peso a package, a pay to one system, the privilege, your paycheck depends on the plunder. Your pockets Ozempic, I'm packed with a pen in my gel, my kicks, my streamer, my seller, my dealer, my pundit. General shit, that bitch redundant.
There's something here, like, this community is so talented and somehow made this like fun, cohesive album of content.
By the way, you know, I was traveling for work. So I was in New York in a hotel mastering and doing like the final tracks that I was responsible for and just like having a blast like till 5 a.m.
We had got a lot of outpouring of support from the community and from Atrioc himself and people who really wanted to like keep making music. Immediately after we made the holiday album. Very Cranky Crongemas was a project that was inspired by a very niche bit that Atrioc ran like 2 or 3 years prior, where he kept calling Christmas Crongemas, and it just became like a habit.
It's actually Cranky Crongemas.
We kind of dug into those archives and we thought, oh, that's a funny name. Let's make a whole album around Cranky Crongemas. While we were making these 3 albums, we actually had 2 people by the name of Beautiful Panda and Badger. They came together and they decided that they really liked making emo music together.
We were trying to figure out how to present an emo album to Atrioc, and we found the perfect moment.
Today, Otto has created me a tool that should completely change the course of human history.
Because Atrioc was tired of Coffee Cow, he was tired of Glizzy Hands, he was tired of the memes. And so he told us that he was gonna kill all the memes.
Suddenly it made sense. We were revolting against Atrioc killing all these memes. And so later Mr. Ewing became yet again another protest album lamenting the death of all these memes.
You don't know how much
emotion. Just one more time. Listen to how he says hurts. I really feel like I hurt him.
That wrapped and finished like end of April, right? We like high-fived everybody and we're like, okay, so what's next? Oh, fuck, Paper Mario Day on May 22nd is next. Dude, we got to make another album. We just finished an album. Who gives a shit? We got to make another one in 21 days.
Last year, May 22nd, would have been the 4th year that he was playing Paper Mario, and he had yet to beat the game.
Wait, no! No!
And so Frogman, another member of our community, decided it would be fun to make one song for Paper Mario Day. But like everything in this community, it wasn't one song. It ended up being a 40-minute album, with some songs being 15 minutes long. I won't say who produced them, but it was me.
Who came up with Hallelujah?
That should be where it ended if we had any shame. But while all of this was going on, we wanted to meet up in person. We thought it'd be cool if we went to TwitchCon that year, because TwitchCon had sent us an invitation to perform. We looked into TwitchCon. TwitchCon said you could only have 5 people on stage. If like fans wanted to come, it was like $200 a ticket. We said that's not good. But the idea of a live show started building in our heads.
And then, so we started just like kind of looking at venues around TwitchCon. And then we just started kind of like putting a storyboard of stuff together. And we found out that, hey, we can actually do this. I'm uniquely positioned to pull off a live show based on all of my experience. We floated the idea to Atrioc and he said, yeah, that's a good idea. And then I pull favors. Like, you know, living in LA for almost 20 years now, I have lots of connections with sound engineers. I have like 5 guitars like right now that everyone used to play. And so I just got a team together. Like I assembled the Avengers and we made it happen.
My role was to be anxious. And the main thing I did was be very worried we weren't going to have enough bathrooms or enough toilet paper. And I think I did succeed in making sure that we had toilet paper at the event. So
honestly, a lot of the onus was on JPEX on the music side and Nate on the organizational side. We were blessed that we had so many people that were willing to help, even beyond, you know, me, JPEX, Nate, Drop Spindle. A lot of people had hands in this live show. And it's really hard to say like what this individual person contributed.
From a music directing standpoint, I was responsible for creating the chord charts, creating the demo tracks, always making sure that people knew what they were playing and what they needed to sound like when it came time to the rehearsal. I also worked with a production manager to kind of help like put some things together, but I basically did the entire like cue sheet, which is like a minute by minute timeline of who would go up on stage, who would leave stage. I had 2 microphones. There was one microphone that I could switch on and off that would be heard by everybody. And then I had another microphone where I would just talk just to the band and the singers. My computer was the master control for all of our tracks, and it also controlled what was happening on the video side of things too.
And you were doing all that while you were playing keys?
Yeah, that's a typical thing that a music director does. A lot of multitasking kind of even during the show. I'm switching guitars, that's kind of the gig. They're the ones that keep the band together without the audience knowing that that's how it's happening.
From my perspective, he was like a very sobering force in kind of a community made up of, like, generally speaking, young people who were doing their best, but had less experience professionally.
I'm the oldest person I know in the community. I don't think there's anyone older than me. I'm older than Atrioc.
Maybe on a linear scale though, like Atrioc ages like that one SpongeBob episode where Patrick's trying to solve a puzzle and like his age accelerates at like 30 years a second.
Normally for an event like this, you would have multiple rehearsals. We only had 1 day to rehearse. Griever from Finland came down, asked the storyteller from Germany, came down, like everybody from everywhere. Like we had 15 hours of rehearsal on Thursday, and then we did the show on Friday. And then Atrioc had no idea that we would execute on this quality. Like he had meetings and stuff, and we showed him our plans and our layouts and all those things, but he was just not registering that this was going to be such a high quality production. And, you know, we didn't let him get away with anything too. Like he had to play Bloons.
Atrioc, if you want to step down here.
Down? Okay. No, I don't. It's Bloons. I don't remember how to do. Don't backseat me, I swear to God. This is my literal hell. This is my nightmare. What do you think I should do, huh? What should I build? Oh, how about a stupid ass frost monkey? Oh, good idea! It didn't work!
That's fucking hilarious that we made him play a game and then play the songs live, to have the live show begin with the Down with the Atriarchy and then end with Ballad of a Backseater by Drop Spindle. I think it was really well thought out, really well poetic, and everyone showed up, everyone practiced, everyone rehearsed, and Atrioc was kept deliciously in the dark.
I truly feel like the best way to talk about the evolution of the community really is the butterfly effect. Him just clicking the link to that stupid D's Nuts video is what started all of this.
I'm not sure there had ever been a live concert for fan-made music in a specific niche community that had an audience of thousands of people online and like over 100 people in the venue. The difficulty of the challenge they set out to do versus what I did is like drastically different. What I was doing was like sitting in a room recording a song in a couple days about a samurai, you know, or a coffee cow.
And despite what it may seem, that retelling of events is actually an extremely abridged version of the timeline, and there are several other songs and crazy community events that would further quintuple the length of this video. But how is all of this community art even able to come together in the first place? Why would so many incredibly talented people put so much effort into making so many songs and artworks for someone who is essentially a stranger to them? Despite the fact that Atrioc's flabbergasted reactions were definitely a factor, the answer to that question has just as much to do with the endeavors of being an artist and the emotions that come with it.
It's a very vulnerable process to release music because criticism feels so heavy because it's such like a heartfelt project. It feels like people are criticizing you, not just like your ability or what you put together. I know a lot of musicians that struggle to put together a project, and what's really interesting is how many of those musicians were capable to create so many songs and so many projects for Atrioc, because there's that thinly veiled sarcasm that kind of creates a little bit of a barrier of like, okay, I understand that we're talking about coffee cows or glizzy fingers, but I'm also going to try to make something good and interesting.
And even if it's not highly executed, if it's funny, it also benefits from the irony of that. That really helped the performers for the live show, like not take it so seriously. Even if it was like the best performance ever, it's still about glizzy hands, you know?
Something I love about Atrioc is he makes the bad songs fun because who cares if they're bad? They're fun and interesting and engaging. But he also appreciates the good songs and he appreciates everything in between.
Why is a man this talented making a song about the coffee cow?
There was no reason he needed to be laughing at me sending him a D's Nuts video. That's not that fucking funny. At that point, it had already been like 5 years too late to be sending D's Nuts jokes, but he's still laughing and making a good goof out of it. That type of stuff is infectious.
I think he has fostered a community that encourages people to engage. And I think that's hard to come by. I think that's hard to find someone that's so encouraging.
You know, I've always wanted to be an artist. I've always written music, but I was a musician who was just kind of stuck in my own head. You know, I had this feeling that music was supposed to mean something and that it had to have a certain level of quality.
I always was fascinated by music and people that make music and write music, but it felt like this thing that it was just so unapproachable for me or unattainable. And it took kind of the complete lack of seriousness of the Atrioc community to break that barrier down.
During the Popathon, when I could just release a song and instantly get 1,000 people listening to me, that mental barrier sort of started breaking.
So it really unlocked music from this thing that was very serious and stuffy to me to a fully creative outlet.
We made 8 hours of content in 2024. That's not including Down with the Atriarchy in 2023 and all that stuff. If you include One Last Hit and the Popathon album and like all that other stuff, it's probably like 15 hours of free music. All tangentially orbiting this one streamer who doesn't have a musical bone in his body. Everyone watches Atrioc for a different reason. We watch him for inspiration to like figure out what the next community project could be, the next thing to make fun of him. And we use it as our catalyst to come together as friends and as musicians to make something.
A lot of people also lean on this community because it's easy to feel very isolated and unsure and discouraged. So having something that you could engage in that like developed skills that you were passionate about, gave you some sort of communal fulfillment, allowed you to connect with others in meaningful, significant ways.
It's a beautiful experience to be able to not only create things that you're proud of, but to do it with people that you're excited to kind of be around. I think there's a lot of creative freedom to just like put something out there because the subject matter is so low stakes that it doesn't really reflect your core essence as an artist when you're kind of creating stuff for him. It can, but it's not the primary communication vessel. And so people have a tendency to be very proud of the work that they're doing because they've released it finally. The fact that we have the ability to create without the worry or the fear of being judged harshly is a really good tool, because once we start going into our own personal endeavors, then we're actually a better kind of creative that can actually like kind of execute on that stuff.
While what JPEG said at the end was very interesting and insightful, I actually feel inclined to disagree with him. Because as Pei said before, that fear of rejection and vulnerability that would normally cause an artist to obscure their individuality is almost completely extinguished by the ridiculousness of the subject matter. So therefore, artists feel more comfortable showing their unique artistic expression rather than filtering it for a public audience. However, there is still one very, very simple reason that ties everything together and how Atrioc was able to cultivate such a community, and why this level of depth doesn't seem to exist anywhere else on YouTube or Twitch. As frustratingly boring and unsatisfying as it is, none of this would be able to come together without an obscene amount of luck and the alignment of destinies to get to this point. There could be 1,000 other people with the exact same mannerisms as Atrioc who are degenerately playing League of Legends every day at ASU before locking in and getting a marketing job at Twitch and Nvidia before becoming a full-time streamer, and none of them would be able to bear the same fruit that Brandon GH Ewing has bore. There are probably so many alternate dystopian timelines where Spoontrioc or Glizzy Hands or Coffee Cow don't exist, but luckily, we live in the one that does have them. And these people's lives and so many others have been genuinely changed for the better because of it.
You think about who that? He's like probably a Ludwig viewer that came over to my chat and made a D's Nuts joke one time and got banned. If I had timed him out or ignored it, his entire life would be different. Do you understand? There are so many people telling me how the community hit at the right time in their life for them to do more than they thought they ever would.
It is so crazy that one chat message, one emote on one stream has launched me into this timeline where I'm making music and doing a live show and making all these friends with people that started from Discord. Had I been 3 seconds too early or 3 seconds too late from that message, if he'd been drinking water or if he yep-coked in the other room, he would have missed it. And I would not, I would not be in this specific timeline. I wish I lived in a timeline where I didn't sell my crypto. But, this is a good one too.
When I made the second video for him, when I was going around San Jose, I got kicked out of my family's house. I also got diagnosed with depression. Like, just doing the most basic things takes like so much more energy than it ever should. But even despite that all, content creation, making these kinds of videos, trying to elicit a reaction from other people is like the thing that I'm absolutely in love with. I thought I was passionate about like marching band or like computer science or whatever, but it wasn't until I started making these videos for Atrioc that I discovered like, wow, this is actually so fun. This is something that I love doing and didn't stop love doing. I've made so many close connections that have kept me grounded throughout these years. All these special memories that I've made and all these connections I've made, like, I really got to thank it to Atrioc and his community.
When I first got involved with the Atrioc community, I was working a government job over in Europe. I was sort of isolated. The biggest impact has just been to my social life, which is strange to say that like, oh, I made friends with these people online. But ever since then, we've met up in person multiple times, we have like deep conversations about our life, and we've been there through moments for each other.
The best part for me has been the fact that I've made genuine friends. To have this group of people that are so on board for whatever I've done and so supportive has been incredibly validating and huge for my self-confidence, and something that I didn't realize I'd been missing for so long. Getting a license to be silly and have people be excited to be silly with you has definitely been the thing that's kept me engaged in any part of the community.
Also, I will recommend to chat, if you're planning on making a chat labor union, don't work on it at work. It might look suspicious to your IT people.
I was a kid who didn't have that many friends growing up, who didn't constantly have like positive validation in this way very often. So to now have this, it made me feel like I was doing something that was fucking worthwhile, I guess, you know? I never initially planned on living in Texas at all. And like my roommates now, who are my best friends, are people that I somehow, some way met through this community. And like my little parasocial, it felt good to be able to interact with people in this way and have something like that. I don't know.
There's this like theoretical question that sometimes people ask, which is like, if you could go back to any point in your life with like your current understanding of the world, how far back would you go? For me, the answer's always been like, I don't think I'd go back. Like, I'm really happy with the way my life currently is, and I'd be so afraid of messing it up. I think the way being part of Atrioc's community has influenced me is kind of impossible to separate from who I am today. And I think I wouldn't change it for anything. It's so melodramatic the way I talk about this.
And as it would seem, luck is also one of the biggest reasons why I'm even making this video in the first place. When I first discovered Atrioc, it was at a time in my life where I was so checked out of politics and anything adjacent because of how polarizing it was. It just seemed like people on both the left and the right, despite having wildly different opinions, seemed to be so confident that they're right and place so much of their well-being on that righteousness that it became so overwhelming to actually try and earnestly process all of this information without getting radicalized. So at some point, I just realized the absurdity of all of it and just stopped trying. I think overall, my mental health has been so much better off for it compared to before, but I also had a little bit of guilt in the back of my mind as I knew that all of this was still important to follow. That's when I actually had the urge to go past rewatching Bros vs Pros and actually visit Atrioc's YouTube channel. And for some reason, even though he was talking about news and current events that would otherwise make me dissociate, something about him just seemed so different. In order to better understand Atrioc's appeal, I'd like to categorize news commentators on the internet into two types, informative and comforting. And I'll use these two streamers as examples since they both seem to be equally controversial, and I'm sure that there will be no angry comments about me mentioning these two. Regardless of what you think of Asmongold, the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of people that find his content easy and comforting to consume. In all honesty, if you've never listened to any of Asmongold's opinions and have only seen him through random funny clips, you would think he's just another chill and entertaining streamer. Even though the gap in knowledge between Asmongold and literally any other political commentator is comparable to the difficulty gap between Stereo Madness and Tidal Wave, people gravitate towards him because it's comforting to watch what seems like a relatively normal dude reacting to all of this news like any normal dude would. But that comfort is also what makes it significantly easier to adopt such flawed and hateful rhetoric. As for Hassan, he seems like someone who's actually knowledgeable in a lot of areas of politics, but at the same time, also seems to have a lot of trouble maintaining a good vibe around himself and his community with all of the controversies he keeps finding himself in, to the point where his negativity bleeds outside of his niche and people are just off-put by his name. Both Atrioc, he somehow manages to be both seemingly very knowledgeable and well-researched and comforting to watch and learn with. In an environment where it seems like both sides are trying to paint the other as subordinates of the Demon King, it's so refreshing to see someone who actually tries to be a little more pragmatic and not trying to polarize people or serve self-gratifying slop to an echo chamber audience.
At the same time, I made a big claim in my video that these policies have pushed people towards the far right. Again, I don't know how I could have been clearer, but I'll be very clear right now. The AfD. The AfD is a terrible party that will lead Germany to ruin. But the reason they exist, people like to blame like, oh, it just happens to us. This just happens out of nowhere. No, it is the result of people's lives getting worse. Stupid policies, short-sighted effort, corrupt politicians, all of this combines to make people's lives worse, and then they are pushed to the far right. If you can't acknowledge your mistakes, if we can't get competent, scientific, realistic leaders, then you're gonna get these problems.
Atrioc is one of the first news commentators that I have found that emphasizes economic issues with this platform while not only making it easier to stomach, but actually being super entertaining and enjoyable to watch, to the point where I'm watching a Federal Reserve press conference just because Atrioc is reacting to it. Even when Atrioc does talk about depressing news or something that's otherwise negative, there's also always some level of visceral optimism or lighthearted absurdity that follows that makes it so much easier to listen to.
So, I mean, I think the economy is it's moving along. Economic growth is going to be 1.5 and 1.5%.
Dude, he's depressed. I've never heard him say the economy is, it's moving along. Dude, he always says it's strong, it's thriving, it's, I think the economy is at its core very healthy. Listen, we've been saying this on the stream for a very long time, but it's almost sad when Jerome Powell finally admits it, because it makes me realize that, like, it was kind of nice when he still denied it. It's moving along is what you say, like, it's like when someone asks you how you're doing, and you're like, I'm doing, how's it going? It's going. It's like, oh, you want to kill yourself.
His attitude is less about trying to blame a group of people for making livelihoods worse, and is more like, hey, I know this shit sucks, we're in for some hard times, but we can get through this. Moreover, in almost all of the political discussions that I've either had or heard, there doesn't really seem to be some sort of endgame or purpose for it, beyond just the people trying to prove themselves right, or beat some sort of ideals into the listener's head, and ultimately nobody changes their mind. But with Atrioc, he actually seems to care more about learning and understanding for both himself and his audience. Even though I have never cared about almost anything that Atrioc has talked about beforehand, he explains it in such a simple and absurdly funny way that makes it so easy and inviting and fun to listen to him about these otherwise complicated topics.
I want to give a theory as to why China has been having these problems extra bad lately. Xi Jinping is scaring the hoes.
I don't think his opinions are infallible, but just this whole vibe, as well as the amount of care and research that goes into his presentations and theses, just make me more inclined to trust him compared to others. All of that combined with glizzy hands and all of the community jokes and activity make for genuinely one of my favorite content creators ever. As for the community, as someone who has seen the worst parts of the Minecraft community, it is so refreshing to see that extreme parasocial relationships can actually result in something good rather than just toxic emotions and obsession. I think it also has to do with the fact that Atrioc's community has more sensible adults and is just overall more mature. And the fact that there wasn't a large presence of hormonal, neurodivergent, and socially isolated 14-year-olds with unmonitored access to the internet. But it's still so relieving that this community completely contradicts that negative stigma of parasocial relationships being obsessive and toxic.
Part of the charm of the absurdity is the added absurdity of who we are in real life. I work as a network engineer. People have 9-to-5 jobs. We had rocket scientists, people doing real life things, and then we all come together after work and we're like, yep, Coke, or glizzy hands, or bald, and like the contrast of smart, accomplished people with just the absurdity of doubling down on these really, really dumb bits, but then also taking those dumb bits and making really, really high effort content is just so many layers of irony that I love.
The fact that all of the lore I just went over stems from an economic streamer whose only above average qualities are the size of his fingers and his tenacity in playing games he's terrible at is both equally absurd and beautiful. Even though the people that I've interviewed have already moved on from their era to do their own thing, and the subreddit is a shell of its former glory, the marks that they've left on Atrioc, me, and the rest of the community are beyond anything anyone could have ever imagined. At least for me, I look at all the stupid memes and ridiculously well-produced songs, and know from the bottom of my heart and soul that whatever this is simply the best. Also, Atrioc, we need Paper Mario for 2025. We need it. We need it so badly. Also, if you made it this far, make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below if you enjoyed the video, as it really helps out small channels like me and will be greatly appreciated. Alright, that's all I got. Bye.